surprise. Guess I should have known.
Hello, thanks so much for clicking on this video. You've probably noticed, if you follow the Gabby Petito case, that there was a hearing yesterday in Florida in the civil matter between Gabby Petito's parents and Brian Laundrie's parents and the lawyer that represented the Laundries while Gabby Petito was missing and then found murdered. It was a rather long hearing, and the hearing was mainly to determine whether a burn after reading letter that Roberta Laundrie had written to her son and was found in her son's backpack after he died would be either admitted into evidence for trial or be turned over to the Petitos. Ultimately, it was found that the letter would be turned over to the Petitos, and the Petitos ultimately turned it over to the press. And so we have access to it now, and I'm going to read through it. But it should be noted that the judge withheld her final ruling on whether it should be submitted as evidence, which leads me to believe that it will probably be left up to the jury. So ultimately, the Schmidt and Petito lawyer made a great argument in saying that the jury should be the one to determine whether this letter, which is not dated and does not have Gabby's name in it, should be used as evidence to determine whether Roberta and Christopher Laundrie knew that Gabby Petito was dead when they refused to tell Gabby's parents about her location or the fact that she was no longer with us. So I'm going to read through the text of this letter while I put the letter itself up on the screen, and I'm going to give you some of my feedback as I read through it. But spoiler alert, it's for me gaslight after reading. All right. So the letter says, I just want you to remember I will always love you, and I know you will always love me. You are my boy. Nothing can make me stop loving you. Nothing will or could ever divide us, no matter what we do or where we go or what we say. We will always love each other. Now, that starts out very nice. I have an older son who's around the same age as Brian and Gabby, and I can empathize with those words. I have the same feelings toward my child. However, I don't think I've ever felt such a desperate need to make sure that my child knew those things. So much so that I had to say the following things that Roberta Laundrie felt the need to write down in a letter to her son that was found with him when he died. So the next thing she says is, if you're in jail, I will bake a cake with a file in it. If you need to dispose of a body, I will show up with a shovel and garbage bags. If you fly to the moon, I will be watching the skies for your re-entry. If you say you hate my guts, I'll get new guts. Now, that is absolute desperation. That is a mother saying to her son, there are some drastic things that might be going on in your life moving forward, and I will always be here for it. I want you to feel like your mother will love you no matter what you possibly do, even if you hate me for it. The self-immolation in this, putting aside all morality, she's basically saying, I will be your partner in crime. Now I'm going to continue reading this letter, and at the end I'm going to say a few more things, because it's not a very long letter. Remember that love is a verb, not a noun. It's not a thing. It's not words. It is actions. Watch people's actions to know if they love you, not their words. Therefore, I am certain, and now she's quoting the Bible, okay? Therefore, I am certain that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor the ruling spirits, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers from above, nor powers from below, nothing in the entire create world can separate our love. Neither hostile powers, nor messengers of heaven, nor monarchs of earth, nothing has the power to separate us. Romans 8:38, extended version. And she puts an exclamation point on the extended version part. And she emphasizes, nothing can separate us. Not hatred, not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not even sin. Not the thinkable or unthinkable can get between us. Not time, not miles and miles. Okay. My interpretation of this letter is that Brian Laundrie told his parents what he did, and he was on the brink of doing the same thing to himself. And his mother couldn't bear the thought of losing her own child. So she was trying to talk him off the ledge and say, I will always be here to protect you. Your life is still worth living. So if you end up going to jail, I will send you the file. If you need to bury a body, I will help you do that. Now, what's in question for me is, when did she give this letter? I don't care what this woman says. This woman, these parents have proven themselves to be duplicitous and shady, okay, by their actions. So I don't care if she says that this letter was given to him before they left for their trip. There's a question in my mind of whether she gave the letter to him when he returned from the van life trip for a period of time while Gabby was still in Utah. And he returned and he was maybe saying, Gabby and I haven't been getting along. Sometimes I have resorted to hurting her. Maybe Brian's parents actually witnessed this happening in their own home because Gabby and Brian lived with them for a year before they left for this van life trip. Maybe they thought this van life trip would bring an entire change to their relationship dynamic. Obviously, it brought a worse change. So obviously things were going on in all of these relationships. And the mother is saying, I will always be the one that is here for you. And I will do everything no matter what, regardless of homelessness, threats, sin, thinkable, unthinkable. Nothing can get between us. So going back to the dates, she could have given this to him before he went back to Gabby and did what he did. So there was potential premeditation. Either that she knew he was going to potentially do something to harm her or himself or both of them, or she worried about that and was putting that in writing. But she still knew that there was something amiss, that there was something wrong. And if she didn't do something to stop that, to actually physically stop that, if she allowed that to continue happening, and also, if she gave that letter to him before he went back to Utah and then committed that heinous crime in Wyoming, if she knew that that had the potential to happen and then went into hiding when he returned, that is also complicit in my mind. Now, let's say she gave this letter to him after he returned from killing Gabby. You know, he returned on September 1st. They all went on a vacation around, I think it was the 6th, 7th of September. And in this span of time, the Petito Schmidt family were frantically looking for Gabby. And the Laundrie family was, again, vacationing and ignoring. So maybe they were having all these conversations about this happened. And maybe this is when this letter occurred. Then it is the worst of the worst. It is absolutely the worst of the worst. That she not only knew that this thing happened, she was ignoring the parents, and she was telling her son in writing, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. Now imagine if that was the message that she was sending her son, knowing what he had done all the other things that she had let go of, that she had allowed her son to do leading up to eventually killing his own fiance. Let that be a lesson to any parents out there. If there are no limits put on your child, they won't know limits, and they may go to the ultimate because they don't know the limits. They don't understand boundaries. Now, the reason I want to call this letter Gaslight After Reading is because that's what she's attempting to do to us. She told us in her statement that she made references in her letter to a book that Gabby gave to Brian called Burn After Writing. There's no references to that in here. There's only biblical references, right? And if the letter was so innocuous and was written at such a time and was literally only just a letter that was written before this trip, then why fight so hard? Why spend so much money on your lawyers to fight from it being admitted into evidence? And when you say, well, I didn't write Gabby's name in there, the fact that Gabby's name wasn't written in there and the fact that no specific references to any specific incidents are not written in there is also an admission to me. It means that she is hiding something that is so terrible that it can't be referenced. She is admitting that things are so bad that she has to cover it up with the words from the Bible, that she has to make references that only allude to what's really happening. She was desperate enough to put something in writing to her son because she knows that he, values the written word, and maybe that's the only way she felt that she could give him some sort of lasting impression of how she feels about him. So she couldn't control herself enough to not write down these words, but she knew that if she wrote down these specific things, that it would have been ultimately over for him and for probably their whole family. I saw some comments as I was watching the hearing yesterday of people saying this is, the Laundrie's doing this and fighting so hard for this letter to stay out is the Streisand effect. The more they point attention to this, the worse it looks for them. And I agree with that. If they had just said at the very beginning, oh yes, there's this letter. It was something that they could have taken some of that suspicion off the table early on. But the fact is the fact. Those words were written. She did say she would go to the ends of the earth. She would do anything for this child, no matter whatever sin he committed. Now, does this mean that she knew he committed that sin? I don't know. That is still going to be left up to a jury if this goes to trial. And you can be sure that if this goes to trial, I will be covering it because this case is near and dear to my heart. I did cover it in real time when Gabby was found and when the manhunt was on for Brian and when the police lost Brian and allowed him to go off and kill himself. This is one of the worst handled cases in true crime that I've seen in my time covering it. So anyway, I just wanted to get you my impressions of this letter, Gaslight After Reading, watching Gabby's mother sit there and intermittently cry and, have to sit there and hear the ridiculous, more gaslighting arguments from the lawyers about this ridiculous letter. It was hard to watch. I admired their persistence and the fortitude of the Schmidt Petitos for moving forward with this. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. And remember to be kind online. Also, don't forget the algorithm because anybody can be manipulated. Peace out.